I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous and maybe even part delusional. Um, I always say that right wing politics, conservatism, more often than not, revolves around hallucinating an alternative reality just to get mad at said reality, and then endlessly getting mad at that reality. It's always born out of like collective hysteria, right? And I think it's also delusional to look at that, to look at growing anger and resentment in this country, and just simply say, well, some of the more extremist figureheads, especially if they have mass appeal, are simply young activists that wanted to have discourse, that wanted to have spirited debate. It's very obvious that the Steven Crowders of the world and the Ben Shapiro's of the world, and even Charlie Kirk as well, was not actually invested in the Socratic method, in applying like the Socratic method, or having like a real back and forth where they arrive at a truth, but they were just simply using this or SJW owned compilations, easy slam dunks against hysterical college freshmen to make their side seem more appealing, seem stronger. It was entertainment, it was political entertainment for the most part. And yet, for some weird reason, I think aesthetic fetishists and civility fetishists, more often than not, these are liberals, look to that and think, well, this is how polite discourse is supposed to happen. Now, of course, political violence is abhorrent. All violence is abhorrent. Having said that, I think we must be honest about the role that Charlie Kirk played. Especially liberals must be honest about the role that Charlie Kirk played. And I find it very damaging that the first interaction that many older liberals and many older Americans are going to have with Charlie Kirk is going to be from these reputable institutions, a completely whitewashed perspective without actually accurately reflecting on his political output. As a political actor, Charlie Kirk was a very successful political actor. He believed and stood by his principles and stood by his opinions, no matter how extreme I found them, no matter how distasteful or morally repugnant I found them. He advocated for those positions, and I think it's a dishonest assessment to refuse to reckon with some of those opinions that he was very proud of. I think it's also a disservice to your audience if you don't actually reveal what his positions were, and then allow your audience to make up their minds for themselves on whether or not this person was simply a moderate voice and a champion of truth and justice, or if they were a very apt, very successful conservative firebrand and an agent provocateur of the highest order, who was one of Donald Trump's most beloved advisors by the end of his by the end of his life.